we're back again. Hey everybody, Steve here, the retired hobby tech guy. Today we're going to be talking about Tinkercad. Again, the CAD program that has been lowered so I can use it, so I appreciate Tinkercad. There's so much you can do with it, way more than I will probably ever be able to do. Maybe I should take some classes in Tinkercad to try to get better at it. I need to watch more videos and spend more time, but then I get sidetracked with so many other things. But currently, I'm working on the improved enhancements for a 3D printed teleprompter. That's what we're working on. And so for those of you that are interested, let's go ahead and we'll make that a little bit smaller. And this is the 3D printed Tinkercad teleprompter for a cell phone. So I modeled this after my iPhone 13 Pro Max, and it fits in there. It's got a good amount of room in there, you know, as far as size. Of course, we could probably kind of give you a little bit more of a kind of look at that. So we definitely have room in there to fit a cell phone this size or larger, which is pretty good. But this is going to, this is going to be a good thing. I think this is really going to be a good thing. So it took a lot of trial and error, and with Tinkercad, and especially with me, it's going to take a lot of trial and error of trying to get what I wanted. I wanted to have the little side pieces here. I wanted to make sure that the glass that fit in here, which is a 4" by 6" piece of glass from a 4" by 6" picture frame. Just went to a local store, paid a few bucks, got the cheapest one I could get, and the glass slides right in there. The other thing that I wanted it to do was, initially I wanted to use the cell phone, and then I thought about doing like an 8 by 10 one, a big one, but then I'm like, you know what, I do talking head videos mostly, and this would probably be better than having a big 8 by 10 piece of glass. So for kind of comparison, this is an 8 by 10 piece of glass, and so this sitting, you know, in front of my camera, I mean, that would take up some real estate, whereas, you know, this piece here is definitely a lot, you know, kind of put that into perspective. This one is going to win out because I don't really need something this big. Maybe eventually I'll get into it to where I'll do the 8 by 10. I don't know, maybe I'll just do this one and scale it up, and we'll call it good. But there's a lot of different enhancements that I want to end up doing with this, and I definitely wanted the cell phone to fit in there and have room. I wanted the slot, as you could see there, put the slot in there, and again, made with Tinkercad. This came out really good. Printed out on the Creality K2 Plus. This one I printed with no supports. We got a little, or this one actually I print with supports. The one previous to this I didn't, and it had a little bit of stringing on this lip, but on this version we went through and boom, we fixed all of that, so we're good to go. The other thing that I added was an angle bracket, because initially what I wanted to do was to be able to have a bracket that would go up and down, so that way, depending on the webcam that I ended up using, this is just kind of a mock-up, that I would be able to, you know, raise this up and down. So that way it would accommodate not only webcams, you know, we could move this back and forth and it could go up and down like we see like that, but it would also accommodate bigger cameras such as my Sony FDR AX53, which is a big 4K webcam that came out numerous years ago, which is still like $800 a pop. So, but the other thing I don't like is that this, it goes up and down, but it just kind of does this thing, you know, until you hold the bolt in place and the nut. And by the way, I ended up making an insert for an M5 bolt or an M6 bolt, quarter 20, and just put in, made another one there, so that way we can kind of get this together, but it still kind of rotates. And so I didn't like that. So another improvement that I'm going to end up doing is taking this, and I could just cinch this down, but I'm going to have some tracks on this, and we'll see how this turns out. So yeah, it's getting kind of interesting. Greetings, Steve. Nice to you. Excellent work. Thank you. Getting it better. We're continuing on with the work of the cell phone, and hold on a second. Need to make some adjustments to the air conditioning. So we're making some improvements for the cell phone teleprompter and getting into Tinkercad more and more, so I thought we'd jump into that and show you what's going on. It's been working out pretty good, and the recent idea that I had is to make some tracks to where that L bracket would have some guides and a track to go into, so that way it wouldn't, kind of flop around like we ended up seeing. So what we're going to end up doing here is we'll go to this screen and we'll check it out. And there it is. A lot of other different versions. Like I said, we ended up having a bigger version, and then, kind of different camera mock-ups and things like that. So yeah, that would be the 8x10 one. And still kind of working on that a little bit, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like I said, what I might end up doing is just taking this one here, and maybe I would be able to increase it, scale it up, and it would accommodate an 8x10. But I would have to do some adjustments because the slot that the glass goes into would also increase in size, which would be way too big, because the glass, as I'm checking out the glass now, it's the same. It's like maybe 2 millimeters, something like that, 2 millimeters thick. So if I scaled everything up in scale on X, Y, and Z axes, it would also increase the width of, or the depth of, that slot for the glass, and it would be kind of floppy. I don't know. We could try that out, but I think I could do some adjustments and overcome that. So yeah, this is what we ended up having, and I wanted also a front piece here to come down, and we've got a 7.5 millimeter hole, and that will be for a heat threaded knurled insert that I can use and put in with a soldering iron. It'll melt in there and has a 1/4 thread, and I think it's like 8 millimeters. So the base is 10 millimeters, so that way we'll have enough plastic and it will hold it in place, and that will be the connection point to either put it on a tripod or, little tripod thing that we have on the desk here, and hopefully that would work out. So yeah, ended up doing that. I wanted some support, so I did some little angle stuff there, rounded things out. I'm kind of happy about that. It looks actually kind of good. The top part here, I'm not really sure what I'm going to end up doing with. Let's get this off to the side here. I'm not really sure about this here, because there's a lot of material here that is really just not serving any purpose. But one of the previous versions that I had is that I cut into this, but it just kind of looked awkward. So, I don't know. I really don't know. Because like I said, what I could end up doing is, let's get this, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So we'll kind of bring this up here, and I could do something to where I could bring this over here, like this. Let's get rid of that. And then I could, kind of bring this out, and then I could bring this down like so, and we could kind of do something like that, and then bring the rest of that up. So that would cut out a fair amount of material there, which would, that would definitely decrease the amount of material that would need to be printed, which would probably be a good idea. So we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could do that, and then we could just copy that over, and we'll slide that. Oops. Then we can go over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and We could do something like that, but that would take away that little chunk right in there, and I don't really want to get rid of that. So I don't know. I'm not sure what I would end up doing with that, because if I do that, let's just go ahead and grab one of these. We'll grab this and we'll group it together, and we'll kind of get an idea of what that would look like. So it's not too bad. I mean, we still got our slot in there. Let's take this down a notch, and we'll bring this down about, let's see, can I do that? And we'll bring this down about, we got to set it to, probably like that. And we'll get rid of that one. But yeah, what we could end up doing is something like this, which would save material, because when I printed this thing out, it ended up being like 350 some odd grams. So that would reduce a significant amount of material that's just not being used. So, and we still have good support there. I mean, I think we could do that. And then we could round off these corners with a fillet and try to make it a little bit, you know, kind of like how it's rounded on this side here on the right. We could do the same thing. So I don't know, maybe we could do that. Let's go ahead and we'll copy this. And well, I want to make sure that I get that's going to be just like that. And let's bring this in here. Are they going to work? Oh, okay. I was wondering, I got to bring this, I do got to bring this, and it's going to take off a part of that. But I don't really want to take off the part down here. And we got it set to 0.1 millimeters. So if we bring that just up, it might leave that little line down at the bottom. Let's see what that looks like. And we'll bring this over, a copy over here, and what did we use? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could do that. And let's say we do that and select that. We'll group those together, and then we'll select that piece. We'll group all that. And now we've got something a little bit more boxy, but what we could end up doing is coming in and we could put a fillet edge on that sharp corner, because those corners are indeed sharp. It does some pretty darn sharp stuff there. So let's go ahead and we'll do this. I'll rotate this fillet around like that. Kind of move this up. And we will rotate this 45. We'll kind of bring this in here. And we could reduce the size of this. What is that size? 10 by 4? No. 10 by 10. But we would probably want to take this to whatever size that is. 7. And we could take this one by 7. Bring that in like that. Let's make that transparent so we can see what's going on. And we'll bring this towards us like so. Now that's on 1 millimeter, so we're going to take this to 0.1. And we'll do that, and we'll just go by 1. But I don't want it to cut, well, I guess it wouldn't be too bad. I could do that, because it's not going to get in the way of anything. And let's see, what is that distance? We got 450. There we go. So we could do that, and that would give us a decent fillet there. I think that could work out. And we'd still get, it would cut off and it would still allow, but you're going to have that sharp edge on there. For the glass. So if I bring that right there, and we want it just one hair above. So again, 0.1 millimeter. I think that'll work, and it'll be right on that edge. Let's take it back one more. We'll just do 1. So that way it rounds a little bit, but it'll still, I think that can work. So we'll do that. And we'll change this to 1. We'll copy this. We'll orientate it so it goes the other way. And then we'll just do that. We'll kind of zoom into this and we'll go to 0.1. And we should be good to go. Does that look the same as that there? No, it does not. So that means my measurements must have been off on one of the sides there. Let's see, 1, 2, seriously. 1, 2. We'll do 2 from there and see how that works. 2. Does that look the same? Looks like it needs to go 1 more. Close enough for government work, I think. So we could do that. So we select both of these and we'll make them a whole. And we will group those 2 things together, and then we'll select this and we'll group that, and next thing we end up having is boom, there we go. So we got our little smooth corner there on both sides, and I think that'll work out well. So minor inconsistencies with little tiny measurements, but I don't think it's just, I think it's good enough for what I want. And yeah, we're not going to go for perfection. The other thing, like I said, when we had that corner or had that L bracket, and going back to this, the L bracket, if we kind of loosen that up, it just kind of rotates and falls, and I didn't like that. So what I ended up doing is making some tracks on the model, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Put some holes, some track holes, and some tracks. That there we have that, and basically, if I can zoom in on this, boom. Cut in some holes here. Of course, if I kind of showed you what I'm talking about here, it'd probably make more sense because you're like, hey, I'm just seeing you. So this is the L bracket here, and what we did on the main body on this is we're able to cut in some holes here, and with that, those tracks go all the way down through the entirety of that bottom bracket. So basically what we can end up doing, and then I added a corresponding male portion to that. So like we'll slide this down, and there you can see the tracks and the rails on there. So we've got the holes or the rails, the female rail I guess you could call it, and then down here on the L bracket, all I ended up doing is just putting in some of these here, so this sticks out, and so they match in, and boom, it should be good to go. I'm thinking about putting a little bit of a fillet on these edges here, because like I said, those things can get pretty sharp. So yeah, I'll probably do a little fillet edge on not this corner here, but on the corners on this. Not that it would make that much of a difference, but I think that's what we'll end up doing. But as we take a look at this, yeah, it'll just go right in there, and let's see. It should just ride those rails really nice. And if we zoom in here, we can actually see we've got some room in there, and I'm hoping that room will be enough. It's like 0.2 millimeters, I think, distance in between all of that. So it's got a little bit of wiggle room, but it'll keep it enough to where, again, it'll be good enough for government work. So yeah, we'll take a look at that and see how that works. And this is going to be another print. So this is going to take a minute or two to do this. But other than that, I can't think of any other improvements that I could make for this. Of course, then again, you know, there probably is. So if you've got some ideas on how to make an improvement to this cell phone holder, more than welcome. Put them in the comment section down below. But I think those rails will be able to, you know, definitely fix this problem here that we have. And it'll just be able to keep it within the rails. If there's a little bit of slop, I'm not too concerned about it, because basically I just want it to go up and down. And if I use something like my Sony webcam, not Sony webcam, my Sony 4K Handycam that would put on here, definitely a lot heavier. I wouldn't want this thing like flopping around, so that's another reason why I wanted those rails. And I think this should work out pretty well. So yeah, interesting stuff. And should work. I mean, it works now. I mean, I could actually take this and set it up and use it, which I'm thinking about doing, but my tripod stand here is limited. It's like at the height right here. So if I ended up putting this on here, the camera would be like about 8 inches above than where it is right now. So yeah, we'll have to get another like desk tripod adjustable Hoosie thing there, and be able to put the camera on there. So that's what we got going on. Yeah, this will probably be another 10-hour print, but with this, with the body being like this, if we change this, then, and we've got that little bit, right there. See, that's what I was talking about. I guess what we could do, in case you're wondering, so we cut away that material that was right there, and we've got this tiny little lip there, and I want to get rid of that. So we'll go ahead and we'll just do a box. And it's still set on the 0.1, which should be good. And then we'll just bring this up. We'll kind of have to zoom in there. And that's the problem. It's like, so close. I think that would be it right there. Can we go a little bit more? No. Well, I could. But I would have to bring that all the way up. which we can do that and bring this out, and that would give us our smooth piece, hopefully. So let's go ahead and we'll plan on doing that. We'll make another copy of this, and we'll swing this over to the other side and try to get the same on the other side so it's nice and smooth. And again, I'm not a Tinkercad officiant. I'm just a noob, a beginner Tinkercad person. So, and now what we'll end up doing is we will be able to zoom in on this, and to get that little bit, boom, there. And we should be good to go. And we will run this over here. And we should be good. So we'll do that, we'll select this, we'll group all that together, and keeping our fingers crossed, we will see if this takes away that material and makes it flat. And again, I could people could probably do this a lot better. Is that going to work? We're just going to have to call that good. That is so tiny. It's not even 0.1. And I don't want to. That's as good as we're going to get. So, yeah. Again, I should probably take more classes on. Maybe I should take classes on Tinkercad. I don't know. I need to watch some more videos. It would be really cool to do Blender and some other CAD programs and stuff like that. I think that would be fun to do. But in all of the spare time that I have, like that. But yeah, I think that looks okay. I like the previous version as well, but it was just a lot of material. But you can see there, we cut out a bunch of, let's make this a different shape or a different color. So you can see we were able to remove some material there on the sides. So that'll reduce it as far as, how much material we're going to end up using. So, but that rail system will add a little bit, which isn't too bad. But that will be printed face down. And what we can end up doing, hey, here's something else we could do. Let's just go ahead and we'll grab that. We'll export this. And then we'll bring this into Creality Print for the K2 Plus. And there's our K2 Plus. I just finished printing out these things here, which are the little knobs for the M6 bolts that I have, for the bolts and the nuts. And I've got 4, 5, and 6. So M5, M4, and M6 sizes. So that way, it just looks a little bit more professional. So we got that going on. Let's add another plate here. Well, that's the knobs. I want to keep that separate. Let's go back to recent projects with this one. Project, would you like to save changes? No. Brim, wall loops, 3, 2, enable, discard. Okay. So there was the original file that we ended up having. And so we're going to kind of scrap that, and we'll take this plate and we'll put in the new one. So with that, go to our downloads, the version 6. And there it is. So we've got some things that we could end up doing, and some decisions to make as far as, I think we'll still lay it on this here, on the back like that. but we will need some supports. Ferrets pops up. Hey, greetings from the gym. Hey, greetings. I'm not at the gym. Gym day was yesterday. I go on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So, yeah, glad you're at the gym. Work it hard. So anyway, we're talking about the cell phone holder teleprompter thing that we got going on. And if we take a look, let's go back to our other page. And we'll get this L bracket. And is that, yep, that's all one piece. Okay, so we can export that. And then we can go back to our Creality print. And we will drag this in there. There, if it says, same here, it's still Monday. Time traveling. And this one here, what we'll end up doing, because it's got those male portion of that, then what we'll end up doing is we'll just go ahead and print it on the bottom there. So that way it'll go like that. There it says, good news. Ends up saying, good news, my printer is back up and running, error-free, already working on my big backlog. Awesome, that's incredible. That is really good. Nothing better than getting over a problem and getting back to printing and having fun. So yeah, good stuff. Awesome. Error-free. Gotta love that. I still cross my fingers when I do a print, and yeah, just it's doing great. I need to do some maintenance on it. I need to like grease the rails. I need to go through that menu on the machine and take a look at the maintenance. I know you got to grease the rails, clean stuff up, probably do a scrub with the little brush on the micro Swiss hot end, to get any dingleberries off of there, and whatever else it's got. Probably get the dust buster and get all the remnants, and probably clean the glass and all of that. So we'll look into that. But that's awesome. Cool. You can't beat that. That is some good stuff there. So, my rim light died. Why? Connecting? I think it's because, I need a better, more high-speed little charger on there. And this. Okay, that looks a little bit better. But yeah, so we're still getting things as far as, you see a blue light back there. Supposedly the IKEA thing is coming in. That's going to be coming in either today or tomorrow. I don't know. I got a previous order in. Bertha says, you do mostly PLAs, so you should be fine with less maintenance. ABS is a killer with all the VOCs. My gears are gunked up constantly. I haven't printed any ABS. Did I? No, I haven't. I haven't printed. I've done PET-G, so I've done that and PLA. I haven't done ABS yet. I haven't. That is one of the things that I have not done. And of course, the VOCs are one of the things, but isn't ABS like food grade? You could do like food grade stuff. We'll have to look into that. Bertha says, the blue looks really nice already. Definitely the way to go. Yeah, it'll look really good when we get the IKEA cabinet in there. And then, like I said, we got the lights will be in the background, and so we'll do, a couple of different color lights. I think that'll really spruce up the place. So, but ABS, that's a question I had. Is ABS food safe? Yes, food grade ABS plastic is safe for food contact and certified to comply with regulations like the FDA, but you must ensure specific ABS material and processing methods are approved. Non-food grade ABS or ABS with certain additives like bisphenol may not be safe for 3D printed objects. Even with food grade filament, the printing process itself can introduce contaminants on surfaces that harbor bacteria and blah, blah, blah. So, no, ABS is really bad for food. PLA is good for food. I should look into food grade PLA. That would be something I'd want to do. Food grade PLA. Well, not plastic, but PLA 3D printing. And they do have it. Okay. So I'll be looking into that because there's some things that I want to be able to print out. Like, since I make my own espressos and things, I'd like to have like a dosing cup for beans. I made one out of regular PLA. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. Yeah. But yeah, we'll look into that, and that'll be interesting to take a look at, because there are some things that I would like to print food grade wise. And yeah, I got a roll, Ferrithus says, I got a roll of food grade PLA the other day because I designed a few food containers. They turned out really nice. Cool. Yeah, so that is another thing I'll have to be looking into. So we will go back to our print here. And like I said, on the previous one, it ended up on the previous version, which was this one here, and what we can end up seeing, we have a lot more material on this, and then on this one we cut away that material. This one was like 351 point something to print all this out, so making everybody sick. Let's see what we end up with this. Again, 3 walls, 15% gyroid infill. We would have to do supports. We've got that, so let's go ahead and slice this baby up and see what we get and how much this would be. So now we're down 332.41 grams, and it'll be 12-hour print, and the cost will be $6.65. So yeah, we'll be able to do that. Those supports there are going to be, I wonder if I should do, you know what would be nice, and I don't know if they are able to do it or not, is, and maybe that there. I would want more supports there. Let's see if we can play with some more support stuff. Nail supports, that's not what I wanted. This one, that's what I wanted. So we'll do our little sphere thing. And we'll turn this around. We'll just do a little tiny lip. But I'm wondering if I guess the question I had was, would you be Ferrithus says you can get rid of those supports under those small bridges underneath. You know, I'm not sure about that, because what I ended up doing when I printed out some knobs, and they didn't have supports, and it just ended up being all stringy, which is really weird. But I don't know. We'll see. On the L bracket, you can make that arch to a straight bridge so you can lose the support. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, gotcha. That's a good idea too. So, but what I was wondering is kind of like this. If we do that, and then if you could choose which support system that you would want on your model. So in other words, like the majority of this on your selection over here for your support, you have your choice of normal, tree, normal, manual, tree, manual, and stuff like that. I'm wondering if you're able to set tree normal supports and then do normal supports under those areas, kind of like that on that piece there for that. I mean, the bridging shouldn't be a big deal. But yeah, I think I like the idea of what you were talking about of having that rounded, so that way that would definitely be a lot better. So if we went to this, and I was all excited. I thought I was all done. So we do this, and we do that, and we do this, and do that. Yeah, I'd have to go back and redo everything. This pops up and says, ooh, why are you so small? I usually do hybrid. That automatically selects between tree, get back up there, between tree and normal, whatever it makes sense. Hybrid, I haven't tried that before. You can take a look at that. So yeah, if I did round those out, that makes total sense. But then I'd have to redo everything. Grr. But then it would be nicer and easier to print, and definitely would need supports. It's never over, is it? All of the things that you make me do. I guess what I could end up doing here is we will select all this here, and we could group that. And then we could come over here and we could group all this. I wish this had like a timeline, so you could go back to certain stages of when you added a part or deleted a part or made a hole or whatever. So in other words, you could go back in time. I think regular CAD programs have stuff like that. But yeah, what I could end up doing is probably end up using a cylinder and replace that. And then I'd have to do, make a cylinder hole for a long cylinder, and then for the big part, I would have to do a cylinder as an addition. So I don't mean those square channels already print nicely with a bridge. Okay. I meant on that smaller part, the channel is rounded. Oh, okay. So you're talking about this part here. The L bracket is what you're talking about. I could round those out. Yeah, I could do that. I was thinking of just doing a fillet on these corners, so that way it would round this out on the top and then on the bottom. Come on, work with me. And then on these, where I would end up rounding these out. Yeah. So I'm gonna add a fillet to that. I thought you meant on those female tracks on the main piece. Okay, gotcha. That's where we're on the same sheet of music. Because those corners are really sharp. It's amazing what the K2 Plus and 3D printing can do. So, okay, well, good. Now we can just group all that together, and hopefully we won't have to touch that again. No, the square rails. I'm talking about the channel the screw goes through. The ends are round. You need to make them square. They become a bridge. Not the square rails. No, not those. I'm talking about the channel the screw goes through. Oh, the channel? That channel? the ends are round. If you make them square, they become a bridge. So you're talking about, let me zoom in here. So you're talking about this channel? Because this is going to be setting on the back, and I haven't had any problems. Those print out great. This should print out good, because no matter what orientation well, without these rails it printed out, I didn't have. No, the square rails. On the red part, the red and green. We'll just make it one color. How about that? So the red part or the gray part? In Creality Print, you can see where it puts the support. Yeah, okay. I know what you're talking about. So, it should print out good. Let's try tree hybrid. Let's see what that does. I've never went through all these. I've done like the regular. Okay, well that looks a little bit better. I don't know. Yeah, like you said, it should be good for. Let me get that out of the way. That's the red. Rounded channel is fine. On the channel that now stands up vertically, it puts a tiny support. You can get rid of that by making a straight bridge. Now it even places two trees there. Yeah, it did on the other one. This was the tree hybrid. Let's go back. If we just do the tree default. That should be good, I think. So anyway, but this is still going to take us to about 336 grams, which is about 20 grams or so, because it was like 351 point something for the previous version. So this one will be a little bit. That's the only support on the smaller part. So. Oh, no problem. No problem. No need to apologize. And I'm not the sharpest spoon in the drawer, so yeah. But I think up on here, I think I'll round those, put some fillets on those edges right up there. Right there and right there, so it kind of rounds that out, and it's a little bit, so it'll definitely be smoother, because those, you know, printing those corners, man, super sharp. So like on this, I mean, it's just amazing on, and this is at a 0.2. So if I did it at 0.16, I mean, it would be even sharper, but some of those edges on there, it's just like, holy crow. Make knives and all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, that'll be a 12-hour print, 12 hours and 20 minutes, holy crow. But we did have some more material, or less material, but more material in certain areas, but less overall. So yeah, not bad. But yeah, that should be the final the final one that we do. And if I run this at about 125% printing, maybe we could knock off an hour or two. Yes, up there, if you make that now supported channel a straight bridge, you can drop the support. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, totally, gotcha, makes sense. So, I see. The edges on this, what was my top Z distance? Top Z was 0.2, and I forgot to change it, but it did. The supports came off. There was a little bit of adhesion on there, but the surface area of that, of those areas, just came out pretty nice. But I mean, there's a few areas there where it's kind of like little dingleberries or whatever. But anyway, Fertha says, "Okay, I'm done with steps." And make my way home. See you later. All right, cool. Well, hey, good for hitting the gym, and I know you're going to get back home and you're going to print stuff and error-free. That's awesome. Thanks for the suggestions and everything. I appreciate that. And yeah, have a protein shake. Enjoy your day. Have a good meal. So yeah, that's what we got going on. This should be pretty good. And like for the people that don't know, like this hole down here is going to be for a threaded insert that you put in with a soldering iron. It will be a 1/4 I think 8 millimeter tall. The hole size is 7.5 millimeters from what I can gather from information on the interwebs. And smarter people that have done stuff like that use that threaded insert. It's 8 millimeters in diameter, but they say put in a 7.5 millimeter hole, and then that should be able to grab enough material so that it'll really be solid. So I've got some of those coming in. Of course, everything's got to get shipped to Korea. So I'm waiting on that. And what are some other things? I've been able to make those knobs, which were pretty nice. So those little knobs that we got on there. So we've got the big one there. And you can see it's just that's an M6, and then I just did a little thread example, little one there. So yeah, I think it'll turn out pretty good. And like I said, you know, it ends up by the time we're done, we should be able to have, and this one moves up and down like that. But it won't go side to side because it will have those channels that will ride in. So, and then again, we'll have that threaded connector, that knurled connector will go in there, and we'll be able to set this up, throw in the 4x6 inch piece of glass, cell phone teleprompter, and we will be good to go. So, yeah, I think that'll be nice. I think it'll be a nice little thing that we got going on. So. And even made the little nuts and the knobs for the, I did M3, 4, and 5, M3, 4, and 5, I think it was, as far as those little knurled things. So we'll be putting those up as well. So yeah, we got some good stuff going on. Again, I'm not really sure what else we could end up doing with this as far as any other additions to that, besides just that little small stuff, some small fillets in there. And I mean, I could always do a fillet on this side here, but I don't really see the need to do that. Maybe right on this edge here, we could do a fillet. And kind of the same thing. So you just do a little fillet action. I'll just bring this up. Yeah. And I'll make that like so. But would that be enough to make it so it wouldn't need a support? That's a possibility. So it'd be interesting to see how that would work out. So that could be enough. Again, just a little bit of a so I want to give something like that. And so when this is sitting down on this edge, that should be good enough so it wouldn't need any supports. But even if it did, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe I could make that. No, I'd still want to, I kind of like it. I would kind of like something like that. And then maybe bring this down a little bit so we just get a little bit of an edge in there, or get rid of that edge. Do I still want just to get rid of that sharp edge and just kind of clean that up? I think that could work out well. Matter of fact, I like that. And just so it meets right there, I think we'll be good there. So we'll take this, we'll copy it, we'll flip it over, and then we'll go over to this other side. We'll hold shift and the right arrow, and we should be able to come in here. It goes right on that corner edge there. .1. Yeah, that's going to be about as good as that's going to get there. So how far is that? Yeah, we got a tiny little bit. I think that'll work. So we just select all of those. We'll group that. Save a little bit more material. So we'll see how that goes. And that looks a little bit nicer. What else? What else? What else? I think we're good on that. Unless somebody's got some other suggestions, I think that will work well. And like I said, what we could end up doing is, where is the cell phone? There it is. So there's our cell phone mock-up. And we definitely got room for the cell phone in there. It needs to go down just a hair because it's right there. So we definitely have room for the cell phone, and that's a cell phone with a case with my iPhone 13 Pro Max. So that works out well. We got little cutout areas here for power cord if you want to do that. And I don't think there's anything else I could do to this. If you've got any other suggestions as far as improvements on the main body, this gray piece, put them in the comment section down below and I'll take a look at them, and maybe we could play around and do some more stuff. But the way it is right now so far, unless you got better ideas, I think I'm going to run with this. I think those last little fillets are going to be done. We're done with this. Cross fingers, we'll see what happens. And now we could end up taking, let's move this back, and we'll get on this piece. And what we want to end up doing is taking these edges here and remove just a little bit of material on these edges here. And I think we could do the one on the top. Well, no, the ones on the top I think will be okay because they should be in there. I don't know, but definitely these ones on the bottom. So if we grab this normally, and you've got your work plane area, which, you know, you could set this onto the work plane area there. But you should know that you can also place objects on the model itself, and it will think that is the work plane. So if we take our fillet piece, and there it is on our work plane, but if we go up on the model, it can actually go onto the different sides. So you can see that would be the work plane, that would be a work plane, you know, that would be a work plane, that's a work plane. So you can get some interesting shapes, and instead of having to put everything on the normal work plane like this, and then have to raise it up, rotate all this, you can save some steps by putting it on the work plane like this. And so now what we could end up doing is this. And so that plane of this rail that's sticking out, that flat surface, that is going to be our work area. So now we could play around with some of this stuff. And we could make that, I don't know, let's make that 4. We'll see what happens. Make that 4, and we'll see what happens. And then, since that is the work plane, we could kind of drop this in here. And if we make that a hole, and we could do something like that. And then now we can just use our arrow keys. We could do like a round off of something like that. And we still got some space. So we could do that. And then we can go up. I think we need to go in. So we can end up just taking a little bit. Kind of something like that. And I hope that doesn't, that might eat into that piece right there, into that a little bit. Yeah, it probably will, but it's Tinkercad, so it is what it is. Just one little movement. I think we're just going to have to live with that. So, I think that'll work. And then we'll copy that. We'll go up here to the top where it's got mirror. And we can choose the direction. So we'll do that. And then we could just end up moving this over. Kind of the same thing. Yeah, it's just a tiny bit off. No, actually that's it. We're good. So that should give us a little bit of a rounded shape there, so it's not as crazy. And what we can do is we can group this, and then we can kind of move this up so it looks a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. I think, how does that look to everybody? I think that looks good. So now what we can end up doing is we'll copy that, and we'll just slide the shift and left arrow key, and we'll see how this turns out. And we are good to go. So now we'll group that together, and then we'll group that together. And now we've got a much nicer shape. Again, we're going to have a little bit of that. We've got a little bit of a line there. I'm not too worried about it. Again, and on this side, it ends up, it's not a problem. So, but I mean, it's Tinkercad, and I still need to learn. So yeah, I think that works out pretty good. So this will be printed on this side here. So in other words, it'll be sitting on the build plate like so, and it'll just need supports for up in this area here, and everything else will be good to go. So yeah, should be no problems with that. Good stuff. And then again, if we take a look at our final product here, we should be good. I'm just wondering if the distance for these rails will be enough. And because basically what I ended up doing, I know this is upside down, but let's see if we can move this in. And we'll have to go from this view. But yeah, so we've got a little bit of room on that side, you can see there, and then we got a little bit of room on that side, and then of course there, we got some room, and then the same thing over there. So this is going to be a little bit tighter than usual than what I mean, this will be basically like the first time I've done this, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, should be good. So yeah, we should have some, we got some tolerances there. I think it's like 0.2 millimeters on each side, and then I think it's like 0.3 or something like that. Here's some noise on here. Veritas is back home, time to cook. If you chamfer the male rails on the red part, you may get a better fit. Yeah, just looking at that. And we did the bottom part of it as far as we see down here, if we can get down to it. So what we ended up doing is doing the fillet on that there, and then we just finished doing a fillet on this corner right here to kind of round that out, so that should come out pretty good. And that probably won't need supports because this will be, you know, this will be laying down, so I don't think that'll need support. If it does, no big deal. But for this, yeah, for these here, I could do a tiny little fillet on that. So let's do this. We'll hold shift and we'll make this so much smaller. And we could just do tiny, tiny fillet. And what is that? Of course, it's 2.4. Let's see, 2.4. I would probably go up a little bit more, like something like that. I'll make that a hole. And we could bring this down, maybe just a little bit. Like that. I think that could work. And then we could do the same thing on the other side. Let's see how this looks. That should be a good little, it should be good enough to get rid of that. Says, now that you're doing more complex designs, I think you would make your life easier if you switch to Fusion 360. They have a free license for hobbyists. Actually, I think I've got that. I've got Mesh Mixer, FreeCAD, Blender, Fusion 360. That sounds familiar for some reason. A, B, C, D, E, F, FreeCAD, Float, Final Cut. Huh, I guess I don't. I'll have to check into that. So, yeah, I'll look into that, the Fusion 360. Yeah, Tinkercad, Tinkercad is my speed, but yeah, it would be. I've seen stuff that people do in like Blender, and actually I've seen a couple of things on Fusion 360. So yeah, that would be really nice. But the learning curve, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'll definitely check into that. That is, again, on the list of things to do. So with this, we'll make this have to make this be really long. We could just drop this down. Let's move that out of the way. I'll take this all the way down. Zombie Hunter. Hey, he's entered the room, people. Zombie Hunter. Hey, good to see you again. So we're just doing fillets RS on our cell phone holder. So, and Faritha says, if we get back into here, Fusion is from Autodesk. It's definitely much more powerful and has a timeline, etc. From what I can see here, I don't think you have a problem getting the hang of that. Yeah, it's just taking the time to get used to it. Yeah, I probably really need to just bite the bullet and jump into it. So, yeah, so we got our fillet there. Let's make it a little bit taller. Drop it down a little bit more, so we're good. And then we will zoom in here. And we will copy that. We will mirror this. Swing that over. We got a little bit there, and I think that'd be good to go. So now, if I did my math right, which of course I didn't do any math, it's just counting on fingers and toes. So there's that, and we will take this over here. And we can zoom in, and let's just check these sides. I think we are good. Just do that, we'll group that. We'll see how that turns out. Autodesk, is that Automator A, B? No, I don't have that. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into that, the Fusion 360. See what other stuff. On effects. Voxel. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check into that. Okay, so yeah, that looks good there. Let's go ahead and select all these, group that up, and more professional partage. We got it. Of course, some great advice from the people in the room, so I appreciate that. So yeah, that'll look pretty nice. And then down there, what we ended up doing is doing the fillets down there, so we got rid of those sharp edges. Pretty nice. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. So I'll have to go back to this, and we'll get rid of these. And so now we're going to be on version, we'll call this 6.1. How about that? Not that I have any idea, but 6.1 it is. So I think that is what we got going on. So that we've done that, we export, do the STL. And I get to go to Daiso today too, because we need to get some stuff from Daiso. I think they got Daiso in other countries too, like the UK and things like that. I don't know about the United States or Australia, but they have Daiso. It's kind of like a home store. It's kind of like an all and everything type of store, but it's pretty inexpensive. You can get some pretty good stuff there. So yeah, we're gonna head out and do that today. It's raining here in Korea, so. And B 6.1. Okay. Let me rename this. El Bracketo. And then 6.1 in body. I'll drag that in. And we'll put that on that face there. Just kind of move that off to the side. And then our 6.1 bracket, we'll bring that in. Oh, no. Okay, that's the angled one. Wrong part, wrong part. There it is. There we go. That's the right part. My stomach is growling. I think we'll have to go to the mall and go to Daiso and get something to eat. So yeah, that should turn out, that should look, yeah, that turns out pretty good. That will do well. Zombie Hunter says, never heard of it here in Australia. Yeah, it's kind of like I don't want to say dollar store because they have more expensive stuff than the dollar store in the United States, but it's like you can find like makeup stuff, you can arts and crafts stuff, very minimal, some toys, computer stuff, office, bathroom, kitchen, just a lot of the little things that you would need in you know, pretty much everything. I'm going to probably make a video and do that to check that out and throw it up on the channel. It's got some good stuff there. You definitely, we go to Daiso. There's a lot of good stuff at Daiso, like when you first move into a place, you know, kitchen utensils, you know, pots, pans, glassware, dishware, stuff like that, storage stuff, which actually I would like to get an underside desk drawer, which would be nice because I don't have a desk drawer. So that's something I need to check to see if they have there. Bertha says, rainy day, perfect day to shop. Yes, it is. And the temperature is going to be, like the high is supposed to be 85 today. So that's a lot better than the high 90s that we've been getting with oppressive humidity. So it's cooled down a lot, and inside the mall they have air conditioning. So that's a bonus as well. So anyway, yeah. Zombie Hunter says, I put my parts very close together on the bed. That way it's less time to print because the nozzle has less distance to travel. That is true. Matter of fact, that is true. So we've got this, and arrange objects on current plate. Let's see what that does. Does that make sense to anybody? I mean, is that better than doing something like that? I don't know. I don't know. That's like the second or third time I've pressed that button. Auto orientate. No, I'm not going to do that. Well, let's just see what it does. Oh, I guess it is good. So, and then what else do we got? We've got a lock current plate. Arrange objects. Can we arrange it again? Oh, it does arrange it again. So it just puts it in basically. I'll just do it like that. I think I like that. And yeah, I think we're good to go. And what's this? Customize current plate. Therapist says, arrange parts is hit and miss for me. Yeah, usually I do it myself because I like this 45-degree angle thing. I don't like that. If I think it would be better if it would just be, straight. And kind of zoom in here and just try to get the. No, I don't want that. I want the rotate tool. I think that's going to be as close as we're going to get. So, but I would think having everything straight, but then I don't know, it doesn't matter. But yeah, we'll end up printing that, and if we slice this plate up, and we'll get the final little numbers and see what we get for this. Should be interesting. So we got 331.09 grams, so we dropped a little bit. Originally we're at the first one prior to cutting off some material. We're at like 351.46 is what it was. And it's still going to take 12 hours and 10 minutes. That's fine. I'll just run it $6.62. So, yeah. It should be all right. That should be good. I could even still leave those in there. Oh, and the, that's what I wanted, the top Z distance. Instead of 0.2, which is the stock, 0.24 or 0.25 or 0.26 is somewhere around there. So we'll do 0.24. And that should do good. And boom, we should be good. And then once I get the first few layers printed on this, what I'll end up doing is I'll let the first couple of layers, once those are down good, then I'll bump it from 100% speed to ultra fast, 125%. So I'll cut like an hour or two off it. So it's not bad. There says, nice, I have one of those big prints for overnight. Filter holder for the air filtration system. That's something else I need to do. Since I'm redoing a bunch of stuff anyway, like we're redoing all this stuff back here, and of course I did the island and the stuff for the K2, and then we have the airbrush. I want to set up that Infinity AC, what is it? Infinity fan? Inline fan, inline ace. Hold on a second. AC Infinity inline fan. So I've got that, and because I thought, well, worst case scenario, if I do print things out like ABS or some other materials, weird exotic stuff that tons of VOCs or whatever, I thought I better have that, and even with the resin printer. So I just need to get that stuff, put the inline fan in, and then I'll have to do some adapters, some junction adapter parts, so I can bring in a 6-inch and then bring in a 4-inch, and so I can evacuate all that stuff outside, and it'll be good to go. Rob H says, inline duct fan. Yes, it is the inline duct fan. Fairtha says, yes, I'll let you know how it works. HEPA and carbon filter in front of an inline fan, then you can take my design if you like. Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. All of my stuff you can find on, and after we finish getting the bugs out of like the cell phone thing, I've got stuff on my Creality page, which it's not much, but if we go to, I guess I could do my check-in, boom. There it is, great. I've got a few things here. So I've got like an airbrush holder that requires sticky tape, and then a standalone one. Paint holders, I did a couple of those. Build plate holders on the side of the machine. Creality RFID spool holder, kind of like a little tool thing there. And somebody already did a remix of that and put little clasp and stuff. Stanley dual melt, some hex shelves that I did, a round and rectangular frame for like if you do 3D city prints. I don't know why I put that up on there. Wall mount paint rack, which I've got for my airbrush station. And then I've also got these as well that match up with the Scatus holes, but they're not like Scatus, 100% Scatus approved. So we've got that. But then, yeah, all that stuff's free as well. So whatever I load up, whatever I do, it ends up being free. So you can check there and check that out. And eventually this will go on there as well. So once we get all the little nuts and bolts and everything figured out, we'll throw that up there and it should be good to go. But yeah, that inline fan, AC Infinity fan is, let me see, fan in all my orders. No, that's not what I wanted. Orders, Infinity. AC Infinity, that's it. And I bought this thing a while back. So yeah, there it is. So AC Infinity Cloudline Pro S6 quiet 6-inch duct fan with speed controller. Yeah, that thing is nice. It is really, really nice. So awesome. So that's going to be the fan, and yeah, I just need to get some longer tubes once I get everything set up in the hobby room over there. So we'll have basically we'll end up having if this is the square, and then you have like the 3D printer here, and then you've got a window, and then you've got this side which has the resin printer, and then it would evac through the side room. So yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, that's right. You were the one who did the remix. That was awesome. I like that. Since I since added a tower to the stack of spool drawers, and I'm working on a tool attachment. Dude, you're awesome. I'll definitely have to check that out. So that is awesome. So dun 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 dun. Need to print, and yeah, boom. Gonna give some. There he is, Verifus. Look at that. Look at that. That is cool. Stackable, the whole 9 yards. A little clasp on there. Nice. Little flag weight. Spool drawers. Oh, that looks cool. MagSafe charging dock, watering can, picture frame hanger, glasses holder, soap tray, utility light stand. You've been busy, busy, busy. Ping pong paddle, honeycomb spray storage, spray can storage. Ooh, that looks pretty cool. Look at that. That's awesome. I'm gonna favorite that. Add that to my favorites because that looks cool. I definitely need that because I have cans of spray paint just sitting on the table. So yeah, cool. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely have to print that out and do some of that stuff there. Yeah, nice, nice. Ferrith's got some cool stuff. That is good. Ferrithus says, I told you I don't buy stuff anymore. If I need it, I print it. That is some good stuff. Okay, that's what we got going on. That's what we ended up with, is playing around in Tinkercad, going through the continuing process of upgrading and improving the cell phone teleprompter thing that we got going on. And again, our little proof of concept guy here, you know, with the little move up and down. Of course, we're getting rid of that because we're putting those rails in there. So that'll be nice. But yeah, something like this. And boom. Throw in a 4 by 6 inch piece of glass and Bob's your uncle. So maybe Zombie Hunter can answer that question. I don't know if they have that saying in Australia, but I've heard the saying, at least from England, when something goes well, they say, and then Bob's your uncle. It's just like, I don't understand why Bob being your uncle would be a good thing, unless Bob is rich. I don't know, maybe, long lost Bob gave you an inheritance. Is that where that came from? If you know, put it in the comment section, because I'm too lazy to Google that. Anyway, it ends up, therapist says, enjoy your day, Steve. I can't wait to see the thing in action. Yeah, we'll eventually get that printed out. Probably print that out tonight. I'm drying out some filament as we speak, so we'll do that print tonight, and tomorrow morning that should be good. So we're going to cross our fingers on that. Zombie Hunter says, yeah, we say that too. Why? Why do you say, and Bob's your uncle? It's kind of like, and it's a great day, and Bob's your uncle, and if you do this, it turns out magnificent, and Bob's your uncle. Who is Bob? Bertha says, Bob is just a cool dude. I don't know. I would like to meet Bob. If he's a cool dude, I would like to meet him. That would be kind of cool. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Supposedly, like I said, the IKEA is supposed to be coming in soon-ish. So we'll have to see what that does. Eventually we'll get there. Coupon, no, that was the cables. I don't know. I'll have to look and see how that goes. But yeah, eventually that stuff will get in there. We'll kind of solidify this. We'll have to do some kind of background wall coloring that we got. Rob H. says, Uncle Bob does it right. If he does it right, he's right by me. I'll take that. That works. I wonder if there's a documentary on Bob, Uncle Bob, and why, Bob's your uncle and boom. Bob must be like the world's coolest dude around. For him to have that much recognition, he's got to be a pretty impressive and chill guy. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're going to finish this up, and that's what we got going on. Zombie Hunter comes in and says, not sure, but yeah, it's a good thing when Bob's your uncle. So, okay, there it is from the mouth of someone who knows. Bob's your uncle, Bob's cool, general consensus, it's a compliment. So that's good to know. I will keep that in mind. With that, I think we're going to close this out. We're going to finish up. Again, we got to go on a little shopping trip since the weather is cooler, and Bob is the uncle. He is the uncle, the one and only uncle. Okay, the epitome of unclehood. I think that's what it comes down to. So anyway, we'll fill that out. Zombie Hunter says, yeah, see you, everyone. We'll see you as well. And we'll go ahead and do the classic closing screen. Email, got that. If you want to send me an email for whatever reason, coffee, people have bought me coffee, which is kind of awesome as well. If you don't, that's fine. Just like and subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. That would be awesome. I would really appreciate that. And yeah, there it is. See you on the next video, and enjoy your day, and we'll just kind of continue on. Remember, Bob's your uncle. Bob is your uncle.